Is it a sin to eat unhealthy foods? Oh man, someone asked me that question the other day. As a guy who enjoys the drive-thru, I'm not sure I wanted to answer it. There's actually a local homeless man who comes to our church every now and then, and he kind of forcefully and in an awkward way insists on this question: Does God love overweight people, Pastor? And he tells me the stories of when he used to go to casinos and sit there at the buffets and see, people who obviously didn't need to be there, just filling up plate number 4. So what does God say about our relationship with food? Oh, this is not just complex. I know for a lot of you, this is very personal and it's very emotional. We live in a culture that makes this so difficult. Before it was just like airbrushed covers of magazines at the grocery store. Now it's Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and constant AI adapted images and filters that change this. Some of us, we just feel kind of terrible all the time because we don't look like that. God didn't make us like that. I know people who can eat whatever they want, the most unhealthy foods, and they look like they're healthy. And I know people who try so hard to have a balanced diet, and they just, look at a cupcake and they gain 2.4 pounds. This is emotional for so many reasons, depending how you were raised, depending how you learned how to cope with pain and stress, depending on your metabolism, your age, your gender, your genetics. And there's so many things that we could talk about today, but let's just give this balanced answer. I think sometimes Christians misquote 1 Corinthians 6 when they want to talk about fitness and healthy lifestyles. In 1 Corinthians 6, the Apostle Paul says, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit? Therefore, honor God with your bodies." And then the fitness instructor Christian says, "See, you're supposed to eat vegetables and fruit, and you're supposed to avoid saturated fats and salt and sugar." It says right here, your body's the temple of the Holy Spirit. And that sounds kind of persuasive, but then you actually read the chapter and you find out that 1 Corinthians 6 was not written so Paul could get the Christians at Corinth to cut down on their sugar intake. No, he wanted them to stop visiting prostitutes. Yep, that's what 1 Corinthians 6 is all about. It's about sexual immorality. The Corinthians who just thought, hey, whatever, it's my body, it's nothing. If I sleep with a prostitute, that has nothing to do with my spirit or my soul. And so Paul's trying to correct that. He said, no, you're uniting your body, you're uniting your very spirit with a woman when you use her and sleep with her that way. No, your body's more than that. It's a temple of the Holy Spirit. So I want to be really careful that we don't take a message about sexual purity and prostitution and turn it into a message on protein and grams of sugar. That'd be taking the Bible out of context. So we then have to ask the question, what does the Bible say about eating, about weight? And the short answer is not a ton. I'm preparing to preach a sermon in a couple Sundays at my church about gluttony, and I found that the Bible has very, very little to say. There's a couple passages that guide us in the Proverbs, but the Bible doesn't have much to say about BMI and weight and shape. And so we need to be really, really careful not to be too dogmatic to make faithful Christians feel bad because we don't have like the healthiest body in the world. The Bible it cares about the body, but it focuses so much on our words and our choices, our faith and our integrity. But I will add this. The Bible does say that in the beginning, God created people with bodies. In heaven, your body stays in the grave, but your soul goes to be with God. But in this life, we have this unique and important connection between body and soul. And I think the basics of how God made our bodies can help us a lot when it comes to our spiritual lives. Have you ever noticed that when you eat right and you get some fresh air and you get a good night's sleep, that it's much easier to be like Jesus, to be patient, to be kind, to be gentle, to be generous? You ever notice when you're running on fumes and you're exhausted and you just haven't taken care of your body, you haven't eaten in 12 hours, that you can be a little bit twitchy and itchy and impatient and you can snap a little bit sooner? I think just our basic experience teaches us that there is a connection with the way we treat our bodies and the way we express the faith that is in our souls. it's not totally divided. That was actually the Corinthian error. This is just my body, whatever. It doesn't have to do with my faith. But the Apostle Paul, he connected the two. And maybe we could make some similar connections and say that if you don't want to be angry, you probably shouldn't let yourself get too hungry. And if you want to be a good parent in the morning, you should probably get a good night's sleep instead of staying up and watching 4 hours of Netflix. I don't want to be too dogmatic about exactly this and that and the hours and the minutes and the calories and the grams. But in the beginning, God created us in his image, and he gave us a body that works in a certain way. So honor the Creator with your body by following the rules of creation. So I hope that gets you in the middle. Let's not be sucked in and feeling terrible that we don't have like perfect Miss Universe figures, but let's also recognize the connection between body and soul and react accordingly. That's a narrow middle road, and it's a wise way to honor God with both body and soul.
Hey, thanks for listening to Taboo Questions with me, Pastor Mike Novotny. You can find even more questions on timeofgrace.org/taboo questions and in my book entitled Taboo, Topics Christians Should Be Talking About But Don't. Just look for the link in the episode notes.